Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about episodes 1 and 2 of Apple TV's Masters of the Air, but this time in non-spoilery fashion because I just want to give my general thoughts on these first 2 episodes before we get into watching future ones and really getting breaking those down and talking about those. So Master of the Air is a new show from executive producer Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. That's an, I guess, unofficial kind of like companion piece to HBO's Band of Brothers and The Pacific. Before I even continue, I want to talk about how I'm going to handle coverage real quick. Barring a tragedy of epic proportions, I intend on covering the entire 9-episode season. This first video, though, is just going to be kind of like non-spoilery thoughts on the first 2 episodes, and then I'll get into detailed spoiler coverage going forward. Now that we got that shit out of the way, let's get back to it. And the fact that this was a companion piece to Band of Brothers was all the hype that this show needed. Band of Brothers is considered to be one of television's great limited series, miniseries. I got 20 Emmy nominations, winning 7, including Outstanding Miniseries, which again, that's now, I think today would be limited series. I had heard about it and I had never watched it. So I figured I could knock it out before Masters of the Air premiered, and I did. And its reputation is earned and deserved. Absolutely one of the best limited series, miniseries that I've ever seen. I think Chernobyl is better and probably the best that I've ever seen, but Band of Brothers is a masterpiece. No doubt about it. So you can imagine my excitement to hear that we were going to get a 3rd series from the same group of creators. However, I was also a little concerned because, for starters, it's not like World War II is an unmined topic. No pun intended. There's no shortage of World War II stuff out there for you to watch. Like, I did find myself secretly concerned about this group making a 3rd show set in World War II. Like, just try another war, maybe? You can still make a war thing, just maybe a different one? I don't know. Yes, this show is primarily focused on the air rather than the ground, but still, I don't know. I was just like, y'all keep going back to World War II? Like, I don't know. Maybe try something different. But my other concern went from a concern to a actual criticism once I actually watched the show. Full disclosure, I haven't seen The Pacific, though I do plan on changing that. Therefore, I can only speak on Band of Brothers. But one of the things that made Band of Brothers great for me was the grittiness of it. Like, it felt dirty, like crawling through the mud on your elbows and knees. Felt like you were in the foxholes with these soldiers, scared that anything could happen at any moment. It felt real. It felt like it put the viewer, I felt like I was in the woods in Europe with Easy Company. This shit is too fucking glossy, man. It's like it's too like pristine and sparkly. Like, it doesn't feel gritty and dirty and like I'm in the trenches with soldiers. It feels like I'm watching an expensive TV show on Apple. And of course, nobody at Apple in 2023 or whenever this was filmed is going to be like, let's go make this as cheaply as possible. But there's a lot to be said about how effective the simplicity of Band of Brothers was versus how the CGI of this may not be. That's all I'm saying, and that could change. But like I said, that's how I feel right now. Like it's I don't know, man. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, man. It's missing that. And I feel like that's because it doesn't feel as gritty, man. This shit feels like a fucking. It feels like it's laminated, man. But so far though, I'm finding the non-combat stuff to be a lot less interesting on here as well. You know, one of the many reasons the Band of Brothers was a success was that when there wasn't war shit going on, the stuff with the soldiers was still compelling. They were interesting. We got to know who they were and learn about their past. We got to see them bond together as they came up, you know, in the military. And we saw them bond to become a family in some of those early episodes. None of these guys on this show are interesting to me yet. Like, I found the ground stuff to be fairly boring. And then Austin Butler as Buck, I don't know what to make of this guy. Like, I didn't see Elvis, and I had never even heard of him prior to Elvis, so I don't know anything about this guy. But I thought I was watching a war series about World War II. And this guy is constantly walking around looking like a fucking Calvin Klein underwear model, poking his fucking lips out and trying to do this fucking sexy smile and grin and looking cute. And I'm like, I didn't realize I was watching a fucking Bachelor. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not fucking with this guy right now. The other characters aside from Buck and the similarly named Bucky, all the rest just kind of seem to be generic war guy right now. Like your red shirts. It doesn't help that when they're in the planes though, they have to wear these oxygen masks. But the masks cover most of their faces, so I don't even know who they are. Like in episode 1, the very first combat scene that we see in the air, a guy, I think he caught some flack or something like that, and he's like bleeding in one of the turrets, and the caption, because he wasn't on the screen yet, when somebody's not on the screen and they talk and you watch it closed captions, it puts the person's name up there with a colon and then what they're saying so you know who's talking since they're not on the screen. And you hear from the other side and the caption says, Bucky, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, well, now I know that's Bucky because I wouldn't have known otherwise because that mask covers like 80% of his face and Bucky's most distinguishing characteristic is that thin little mustache he has. So I'm like, I don't know, man. There's some stuff that's kind of bothered me. That's all I'm going to say. Is it going to make it really hard for me to grow an attachment to these characters when I likely won't even know who I'm looking at when they die? And it's probably going to be another 2-3 episodes before I even know who everybody is. Side note, I also didn't understand why the characters made such a big deal of one guy being named Buck and the other guy being named Bucky. It's 2 different names. Like, they're similar, but it's 2 different names. Like, it's like me, like, hey, my name's Mike. This is Mikey. People will be like, okay, those are 2 similar names, but then I can be, like, confounded. Like, how is this possible? Like, it's not that big of a deal. I feel like most humans can grasp the idea of 2 people having similar names. But yeah, the characters on the show seem completely flummoxed by this. Like, what? He's got your name with a Y on the end? Yeah. I also feel like the structure of this show is feeling kind of repetitive. And I'm wondering if I saw it on Band of Brothers, but they I'm not going to go into talking about Band of Brothers and how it worked and all the ways in which it worked. But you got your non-mission scenes and then you got your mission scenes. And I've already covered how the non-mission stuff isn't that great so far. But then they get up in the air and they're like slowly flying toward their destination in their formation. And then flak gets shot at them and fighter jets come by, wash, rinse, repeat. And this, like I said, I wouldn't say it was an issue in Band of Brothers, but it was something that I noticed. The repetitive nature of the repetitive nature of the structure of each episode. But it was a very minor one because they constantly changed locations and they changed the characters who might be there. We might see different people. The sky is the sky, dog. Like, that shit's gonna look the same every time. Like, the land below might be different, but it's gonna be too far away to matter. The sky is the sky. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say I'm concerned about the show's ability to give us something new and exciting. They put themselves behind the 8 ball by heading back to the same war for a 3rd time, trying to tell a different story, and it's not off to a great start with the first 2 episodes feeling kind of repetitive and similar to one another. I'm just really concerned about their ability to keep the air stuff exciting and to make the ground stuff more compelling. On the plus side, though, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm negative on the show, because I'm not, I'm just pointing out the stuff that I didn't like first. On the plus side, I'm still enjoying the war scenes, as well as I think the thing that I'm enjoying most is just learning what it's like to be on the air side of things in the war, because you don't see a lot of that in like, not all of us, but a lot of us have seen a lot of movies or TV shows or whatever that have taken place at some sort of war, right? But it's always been like ground combat. Like we don't ever, or maybe on we might have a good portion on boats, but like airplane stuff, you don't get that often, and you don't get it to this kind of like very realistic degree. So I'm enjoying learning kind of like just what all that is about. Like it's kind of foreign to me. We learned that the B-17 is called the Flying Fortress because of like all these guns that it had on the exterior for protection. Of course, in their situation, offense is the best protection. But these bombers are flying significantly slower than the fighter jets that are attacking them. So they need heavy artillery and to fly in these specific formations to stop themselves from being separated and to maximize their defenses and minimize their vulnerabilities. We also learn how things can go wrong in the air versus on the ground. We learn about the pros and cons of bombing during the day versus at night. I thought that was interesting, as well as how if you don't complete a mission, you just gotta drop them bitches in the water. Apparently, I didn't know that. You can't just take the bombs back. You just drop them in the water. But a lot of the world building I thought was interesting, and I expect the necessity of this world building to be what slowed down these first 2 episodes a bit. I do expect things to pick up now that we have a stronger understanding of how everything works, who everyone is, and what these missions and what the structure for them looks like from, I'm not going to say day to day, but you know what I mean. What's day to day, episode to episode, whatever you want to call it. I guess right now I'm just concerned because a lot of my fears about this show have been met. Like, how do you head back to World War II for the 3rd time and find a way to tell me another compelling and exciting story? Well, they're struggling with that right now. Then on top of that, I can't even fully enjoy the combat scenes because they're completely lacking the gripping nature of the ones from Band of Brothers. So, listen, I'm sure some of you are like, well, this ain't Band of Brothers, it's its own show, so stop comparing it to that one. Why, though? Because every time Apple says from the people who brought you Band of Brothers in the Pacific, they want me to compare the shows because they see it as a way to draw in viewers. You get to tell me I can no longer compare the shows now that the comparison isn't a glowing one. So I'm gonna compare it to Band of Brothers because that's what it's meant. That's what's meant to happen. They present it as such. I'm gonna take it as such. And as of right now, it's not hitting me in the first 2 episodes the way Band of Brothers hit me right away in episode 1. So yeah, I'm still gonna stick with the show. And I do expect it to get more enjoyable, significantly so. But these first 2 episodes just kind of felt pretty run-of-the-mill for me, fairly boring, didn't even come close to meeting the bar. Like I said, the Band of Brothers set right away, and that Apple wants me to remember the Band of Brothers set right away. But, I mean, if you're a big fan of it, let me know what you thought in the comments. Like I said, I'm still going to be covering it. I will see you guys probably this Friday for episode 3. I can't remember I fell asleep on it. I'll try to watch it Thursday night, episodes 1 and 2. I fell asleep on it. I was just really tired. I don't expect that to happen this Thursday night. So hopefully I'll get episode 3 knocked out Thursday night, get this video up on Friday. And until then, peace.